It's time. Thank you for tuning in to the Force Report podcast. I'm T.D. Arnold, and my special guest today is Kimbi Tiez. She is a singer, songwriter, poet, and yogist. She'll be sharing her story about being an entrepreneur, love, heartbreak, and betrayal. So sit back and relax. It's time for the Force Report. Thank you for tuning in to the Force Report. I'm T.D. Arnold, and my special guest today, I have Kimbi Tiez. How you doing?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Oh, I am well. You have a busy day?
I do. When don't I? But I do.
It never stops, huh?
Yeah, it's good, productive. So it's all good. Towards the greater good.
Good. I became familiar with your work. You are in, and we've talked on many occasions thus far, and I'm very impressed that you into multitude of things. You yoga, you teach that. Massage therapy as well. A spoken word, you do. Songwriter, singer, and probably other things that I probably haven't listed. Mom, you know. And,
That's the toughest one of them all.
The primary to a young prince, and so I think that you have definitely your plate full. I mean, but you do it well. I've listened to some of your music online. I've listened to some of your spoken word. I've seen you some of what you're doing. It's just amazing. So let's talk a little bit about your background. You originally were born in the South, but you're kind of raised in the North in New York, right?
Yes. So I always say I was born and bred in the South, buttered and jellied in New York City. So I'm not quite fully Southern,
right?
But not quite fully cityfied. So I'm a Southern girl.
Yes, right. So growing up in New York, what was that like? What was the how did that help develop you into your many art forms?
Well, I have to say, being that I lived in just about every borough, from the Bronx to Flushing, Queens to Manhattan, and just, with school and different classmates and different jobs I had and different people that I met over time, and just being in New York, everybody and their grandmama and them is in New York. I got a chance to learn from many different teachers, shamans, sages, from all walks of life. And I really have to say, like, spiritually, like my spiritual practice, that was very impactful, being raised there, because my background also being in fashion design when I was in college, that's actually where I took up Tai Chi. Just to help with my stress level of, dealing with a pattern making major and the whole fashion industry and all that entailed at the time. But that pulled me more as I studied with that guy, and I can't remember his name. That's so bad, but it's been a long time ago.
Held in with a harness strapped to my vital body, whipped by the evil twin of happiness, go farther, further. Heels digging into a deep nowhere. Fresh scars making love to sewn wounds, trying to be reborn. The tongue and the heart and the mind speak fluent miscommunication. This breath is a hostage of doubts, taunted by an idle and manipulative imagination. Give us free, give us remembering, give me, me.
And I actually got into yoga from my mom, who was a bit of a eccentric in her time. So she used to meditate. And me and my brother just used to laugh at her and think that was mom doing just crazy mom things. Because she was very artistic, a painter, singer. In fact, so pretty much my creative side is from my mom. That's in my DNA. That's in my blood from her. So as I said, speeding up to college, when I learned Tai Chi and got more heavily into my yoga practice, that's kind of where I evolved into who I am today.
Okay, so the Tai Chi and yoga was your first step, and
Right.
so,
Yeah.
so and now and then you moved into fashion,
Right.
right?
So I was in fashion design, and once I graduated from FIT, I did menswear for a boutique in Brooklyn that was called Tribal Impressions, where I met my best friend. We actually used to work at this yoga center, this world-renowned yoga center, Jivamukti Yoga Center, known as Yoga to the Stars. So I met, just about everybody. That was a quote unquote star in back then, or still now. But her and her husband, they opened up a store in Brooklyn. So I made clothes for them for a good while. So in New York, I was doing the fashion design and making clothes. And also I was heavy into my yoga practice then, where I practiced 7 days a week. I was like serious yoga fanatic. That was my breath back then. And so that kind of leads into, as I was taking these yoga classes, I didn't see myself,
Yes.
and that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And this one brother, he visited the yoga center that I was managing, and he gave me this book by Dr. Muwata Ashby about Kemetic Egyptian yoga.
Hmm.
And so I read that, and that kind of prompted me to look further into yoga and what it really meant to the African indigenous people, the Black and brown people, and just really connect that to who we are. Um, so then as it went further down the line, I wanted to be an instructor to teach my people.
So this was more yoga, more Kemet based of that book?
Well, what it did was it showed, when people think yoga, they think India.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Flexibility, they think contortionist, they think that's it.
That's it.
So one of the blessings I have to say with working where I used to work with Jivamukti Yoga Center is it taught me the true aspects of what yoga is. So yoga means source, yoke, to unite, right? To get closer to source. So there are different tenets of yoga. So you have the physical aspect, you have the meditation aspect, you have the selfless service aspect, you have the what do you ingest, your food intake, your thoughts, your, the psychology of it. So it's different aspects of it. So I learned true yoga, not just you're in a fancy pose, look at me, I'm doing yoga. That's not yoga. That's one part of it. That's the physical aspect called hatha yoga. That's one part that unfortunately Westerners concentrated on because it looked pretty, but that's not what yoga means.
Okay.
So leading up to, what was I saying? So learning the origins of yoga, that if you look in like different ancient culture civilizations, so you have like in Mayan ruins, of course in Kemet, and other ancient civilizations where you have, the engraved site, the engraves, the on the walls,
Right,
basically.
yeah, yes.
They're in yoga poses, or in their meditation pose, or they're in lotus. So this has been around, this, and it's about connecting to source. We didn't, I say we didn't have TV back then. So TV was nature, it was everything. So you looked at the animals, you looked at the trees, you looked at each other, and that's where poses came from, and then you could tap in more efficiently because you weren't distracted by outside things where we are today. So I just absorbed all of that, and I just wanted to give it back, to my people. But I had to get all the information, and that's always been a big thing for me. I always took the approach as far as whatever I was going to do, I have to get all the information first before I feel comfortable to guide or tell you something, because I'm not just going to repeat something and not live it. I'm not going to repeat it just because I read it in a book. So I had to live it. And so it's a lifestyle. It's not just a hobby, or something you do in a spare time. It's actually who you are, who you become. So that's the yoga.
The
And
yoga.
yeah.
Wow. So when we look at, so you had this being brought up into this tradition, learning the source of where it's come from, and not necessarily seeing yourself, but you also, so I'm imagining once you're finding this, some of the sources of where things are coming from, you're also able to attract more people of color or Africanized people. Was that more in New York, or was that later on?
I have to say, here's the irony of all of that. In New York, I was privileged to be able to, instruct classes, in just about every borough as well. So I had just about every type of individual in that class, I'll have to say. From every race, every background. So that was easy. Coming to the South, not so much because of the stigma and the miseducation and ignorance, basically, of not knowing what it was, just because of, just false information. That's all.
Yeah,
That
I think a lot of that's due to a heavy base of within church culture, and
very much so.
yeah,
Very much so. Between that and just fear of unknown, and just what we as a people have been taught, especially Black people in the South, unfortunately,
right.
just not knowing our history, just not knowing, the parts that have been hidden from us on purpose for
Right.
a reason, just not knowing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do. I found where some things, like you're talking about, like up north, being up there when you people taking yoga classes. No one thought no more of it. I took a, hey, I'm going to my dance class and I'm gonna go to my yoga class. I'm gonna go to this class. They
Mhm.
didn't think anything of it. Whereas down here, yoga, what's that? Tai
Yeah.
Chi. I mean, it's they didn't know what it was. And here, I should say here, but
Didn't have to convince in the nor you don't have to convince anyone to do this for your health or for your well-being, compared to when I got here, from years, just teaching in different centers, having different classes here and there. There was always a small group of people, that gravitated towards my style of teaching as well. But it's almost like pulling teeth, trying to convince people to do
mhm,
this. So it really did for me, spiritually, to practice what I preach, not to drain myself out as well. Is, I do just stuck to doing private sessions, or just kind of on call situations, to preserve my peace and my space as well. Yeah. So that's, with the yoga. But with, as I was a young teacher back in my day, when I would have the yoga classes, I always naturally did a massage on my students at the end of the class called relaxation.
mhm.
So, fun little fact here, I actually wanted to be a surgeon.
Really?
I
Okay.
actually wanted to go to schools because I love the body. I loved how just intrigued by it and how it operates, so I didn't have money for med school.
Mhm.
So I ended up going to Swedish Institute, College of Applied Science, in New York, which is the oldest massage school on the East Coast.
Okay.
And so there, that's when I got my degree in massage therapy. Um, and so I actually became a massage therapist to be a better yoga instructor.
Wow.
So that's how that happened. Um, but the school that I attended, it actually was like first year pre-med, and it was a stressful situation. But all worth it at the end. But through taking that, studying that, that got me more in tune with some things that I naturally had within me that I didn't have a name for it. I didn't even think about it, but I became more aware as I worked with different body types, and knowing where I had to be as a as a healing therapist, working with others. And I could start to feel things, and feel energies and things shift. And I've been doing this for a long time, basically.
Okay. Let's look at the aspect of uh so we're looking at the aspect. I'm on a pattern here. So the you went from being a Tai Chi, yoga, the massage therapy,
Mhm,
and now we're looking into this aspect of the healing
mhm.
aspect. Can you go a little bit deeper with that? What is this aspect of healing that comes with it?
So it all goes, it all, everything that I've taken up in my life, it's fused into each other,
Mhm,
um, unknowingly at the time, but it was just a almost like an invisible pull that I was gravitating towards, or was gravitating towards me, or becoming.
mhm,
Um, so it's just, once again, because I was in New York, I was able to train, and learn many different techniques. So learning Eastern, Western based, so we're knowing basically, the anatomy and the, basic biology, but also learning the Eastern aspect, so learning, about acupressure and, the meridians of the body, and learning polarity and learning about energies and the cerebral spinal fluid and how that correlates to the energy, of our bodies, and how we're set up and made. So they go hand in hand. So it's like I learned the science, of it. And that's what I always appreciated about it, is because whenever when I was heavily, doing my massage practice, I could speak the language to my clients, because I could talk energy to one person and they would get it, but then maybe another person would have to speak straight anatomy and they would get it, So
Okay.
just being able to, but letting them know both worlds, they coexist,
Come
right?
together. Yeah, they come together. Wow.
Yeah,
So, because I remember even when years ago, I did something to my back or something, and I went to doctor, and he actually somehow ended up going to massage therapist, and then they ended up doing acupuncture.
mhm,
And it was like, I was like, my first reaction was, oh, okay, I'm not like needles. So, but I went through it, and I really felt, the person explained to me what, what it's actually doing, and
right,
explained the anatomy, and there's different points in your body, and
right.
I was like, oh, and so it's not gonna hurt. I mean, and I was like, it's gonna hurt, and I was like, it's got to hurt, but it was like, it was more of a prick, and then after a while, it was just, I felt tension, it was just leaving, and so it was, for me, I thought it was great. Do you do that now, or is that something that you do, offer your services?
Because of quarantine,
Oh yeah, yeah, we got, yeah,
the pandemic. So
yeah.
that's, leading into everything, now. Well, I don't know how you want to direct it.
Well, I mean, now, okay, let's go into the fact of, okay, so from healing, uh, you eventually moved. I know you moved from New York to South Carolina,
Right.
and that was due to someone being sick in your family. Am I correct?
Yes. So my grandmother, I call her Guru Grandmommy, the
Okay.
original OG
Oh,
goddess.
yeah, original OG, yeah.
Um, so she is the my grandfather at the time, he had dementia, and one of my externships while in massage school was working with dementia and Alzheimer's patients. And at the time, I didn't know that my grandfather, that year later, was, going to be going through that. So I would always call down south, and I would hear it in my grandmother's voice when she described what was going on with him, and I knew the signs and what was happening with him. And so, long story short, it was a choice between moving to Brooklyn in a brownstone or coming to the South to help my grandmother and have her red velvet cake. So, the red velvet cake was
Real velvet cake, red velvet
from
cake.
scratch.
Wow.
So
So,
that's how I got here. Yeah. So just being helping her with my granddad, being caregiver, that's why that's a separate job, for people. So um
how many years ago was this?
so this was 2005. So we're 15, 16 years, yeah, ago. Um, so he transitioned. I guess it was about 2 years, I want to say, when I came, 2005, 2006, around 2007. Um, he transitioned, and I felt that on the day that it happened. Um, but there was an incident where he had, before he had transitioned, he had an extreme um, case of hiccups, and I could see he was in pain, and it was very straining, you know, on him. So we were at this hospital. It was up in the Travelers Rest area. And I just put my hands on him, and I could feel certain things from him. And after I took my hands away, I got really tired. It was almost like wind being taken out of me. And my grandmother, she told me not to ever do that again. Oh, but it soothed him. So things like that, and a whole lot of other instances where, you know, just people that I have worked with and clients, you know, that I work with, and other, you know, events where I knew it was something more than me just putting my hands on people. It was something else. Something was working through me, and I was able to tap into something to help people, remind them of their own natural healing abilities. So that's how I look at that aspect when I did practice it
Yeah,
pre-pandemic.
pre-pandemic.
Mhm.
But uh, be that it may, even though you had to step away from that aspect of being hands-on with people. What about yoga? Did that affect that business as well?
Mhm. So the irony of it is my business was touching people and
Yes.
being near people
Yeah.
and caring, you
Yeah.
know, making sure everybody's okay. So
Right.
I mean, and there are and have been, and I did like a few private clients during that time, but because of the situation being, it was such an unknown factor, and for me personally, um, like I said, my grandmother. So to protect my grandmother, who's now 91 years old,
Right.
to protect a dad who had pre-existing conditions. And that was a whole nother thing where ended up having to help him with his diet, because he was diagnosed with diabetes, and he was on high blood pressure, cholesterol, you know, a whole lot of stuff. So I was able to help him reverse that. So he's off every medication, off his CPAP machine, no diabetes, no insulin shots, you know, like that. So like for a lot of people, what the pandemic did, it gave us opportunity to focus on home, self and home. So for me, my priority was my family and my loved ones, you know, to protect them and make sure that they're going to be okay. Because I wasn't worried about myself, you know. I knew I was good, but I had to protect them. So I had to limit a lot regarding that. So with that being said, what it ended up doing is, because I am a natural healer and a creative, the songs and the lyrics and the poems and the melodies that was stirring up, you know. So it's like, if I can't touch people, you know, how I used to, it had to come out some way. So me I guess, you know, like life was put back into my music and my singing. And that's prompted me to start working on my album, or finishing my album, which I did complete my album. And, you know, I put out a few songs. And so that's where my focus has been. So it's like one unfortunate event of the pandemic kind of pushed me towards the blessing of, I guess, this next chapter, you know, what it is I'm supposed to do.
When I listen to your the transition, some of your poetry or spoken word, and you came down, you were, uh, your, I guess, you were kind of partnered with, you and your partner at the time who were doing poetry. That was a big part, and you were part of a whole community. So it's kind of interesting how the body, the soul, and then it comes out, all the expressions now coming verbally.
Right.
And you shared that life with the whole community of people that did spoken word and poetry, the poetry community in your area of Greenville. Tell me what that life was like in that community, or what stuff like.
Well, the poetry community, a spoken word community. Well, I've always was a writer, and I have to say third, fourth grade, I always wrote poetry and short stories. That's really how it started for me. I actually recited or a first poetry piece to outsiders, actually was to my graduating class of yoga instructors, my yoga teachers, Integral Yoga Institute in New York. I did a poem for my graduating class. I remember that. When I came down south and just feeling like an alien in the South, in Greenville, being a young Black woman who was vegan, practicing yoga, and hanging out with grandma.
Right.
It was I was looked at a little different, not heavily into or belonging to a church, even though I can go to visit, some churches here
Right.
and there. But I'm an observer and saw a lot of things, where I could make my own decision as far as how I'm going to spiritually navigate through life.
Right.
So getting into poetry down here, and there's a spot called down in Coffee Underground downtown, and me and my homegirl, that's my bestie, who's a great vegan chef in one of her former lives. She doesn't do it now, but we went to this poetry spot and I read. And the first time I read, I remember I was shaking, the paper. So I went from being a nervous sharing this poetry with these strangers to a couple of years later taking over that poetry scene with my then partner, at the time, and making it very unity based. That was the name of our union back then. We were known as Unified Soul Poets. And so once again, the mother nurturing healing type in me, it was important for me to see and hone that in other individuals. So, we hosted open mics, we hosted events, we hosted all of these things. And it was just to allow the art community to grow. So that was one of the things that I always will emphasize when, I did host a show, which I called Say What Open Mic Poetry Show, is because there was a lot of talent in the upstate. I won't just say Greenville, just a lot of talent in the upstate, in the South. Because, a lot of people just focus on Atlanta or focus on Charlotte. But I said, no, there's a lot of talent here. So we have great artists, we have great painters, poets, singers, musicians. And so on that stage where I used to host, one of the things when I used to do the advertisement for it is to say, this is a little stage where big things happen. And, so that's where many artists, and there are a few that have grown from that little stage, that went off to do music, went off to do acting, went off to do, so it was a stomping ground, became a stomping ground. So I was happy to be in the background, and to see others grow and flourish. I was known as, like, they used to call me mama, mama goddess. We were mama and daddy or whatever at the time. But life happens, things change, and through a course of events, I had to step away from the community, from that whole scene. And I had to go through a whole healing process, a whole rediscovering myself, a whole starting over process. And once again, what's always been in my DNA is the music. And the music is from, like I said, my bloodline. So my grandmother, the church pianist over 50 years in her church. My mom, was a singer in a band in the 70s named Freedom.
When you see me walking down the street, don't say a word, just turn around, turn around, turn around. Just turn around, turn around, turn around. I'm not walking down the path of your lies anymore. I can't give you what you don't own no more. Because it's gone, it's gone. You took away a piece of me. You took my peace from me. When you see me walking down the street, don't say a word, just turn around, turn around, turn around. Just turn around, turn around, turn around. What you had, you didn't appreciate it, baby. What you had, you took advantage of me. Don't even look in my direction. Don't even breathe this way. You had something good, but you didn't see it, baby. When you see me walking down the street, don't say a word, just turn around, turn around, turn around. Just turn around, turn around, turn around. Don't you even look in my direction, baby. Don't you even breathe this way, baby. Go another direction, baby. Go away, go turn around, just turn around. Ooh, 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 ooh.
So the singing was always there growing. I can see that. I understand that, how that, because singing, I think singing has been a part of my life too. Let's look at this. If you spoke about, you now in this community, and I don't know if you feel comfortable to talk about the issue of healing, and because you're going through, from talking with you, you went through a transition in life. You lost the sense of community that you and your partner or husband at the time had developed and were part of this big community that was growing, and then it was gone. I mean, well, the relationship's gone, community's gone. So now it's like and then you come, and then I remember having a conversation, your own sense of self-worth and all of this. And can you share with the audience what happened to you?
So basically, the situation I was in, I was married, and me and this person, we built a legacy, and and it's still, that can never be taken away. What the work that was put in, the literal blood, sweat, and tears, that was put in, those that were around at the time, and not just in the upstate. We're talking the entire known as Southern Fried community.
Wow.
So we were known, and like I said, a lot of work hours were put in, and on our personal lives, it was a lot of struggle, a lot of pain, it was good and bad, that you have in any marriage, any personal relationships, when you have children. But in my case, because we were such out there figures, so a lot of our personal life was everybody's life, so everybody was pretty much invested in our relationship, and our relationship was part of the community. So when the relationship broke up, the community here, it kind of fizzled a bit, and it wasn't the same and hasn't been the same, but it's something else now, I don't know what, but there is still poetry, but what we had created then, and that sense of family and togetherness, and just being there for everybody, that pretty picture that was painted, that to me was 100% real. That was my soul, my spirit, that I gave to that. And for things to come out, where I was betrayed, I was lied to, I was destroyed. So when you say kind of with the healing aspect, what ended up happening is I, in a sense, died. There was a death while I was still here and supposed to be living, because I had a son, you know. So it was a very difficult situation, to go through as a woman, and to go through it publicly. Not that we were Jay-Z and Beyonce or anything like that, but it heavily affected my life, where I couldn't walk down the street, or I didn't want to go out in public. I didn't want to go to certain events because I didn't want people to ask me where so and so or what happened. Because what ended up happening, Tony, is each time, and this was even maybe a year after, where people that just found out or didn't know, and they'd ask me, well, what happened? So it's like I would have to rehatch and bring it up and just go through it all over. So I had to step away for my self-preservation and for my self-care in order to heal. That was one reason why. There's a whole lot of reasons, but that was one reason why. So, any woman that has gone through infidelity, gone through betrayal, gone through depression, gone through anger, and I got in a car accident like shortly after.
Wow.
too, that changed everything as well, where I had migraines every day for, it was 6 months out the year. That year I had a bad car accident where I had brain bruise, and my memories affected a little bit with how I was able to memorize my poems, my pieces for shows and stuff like that. So it just was like one thing after another that could have easily broke me all the way down, and it did break me all the way down. It did. But I can say happily now, I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for it all.
Wow.
Because through the pain, through the heartache, through the mistakes that I made personally, through self-reflection, I was able to find my voice. I was able to find my hidden power. Because as much as like I said, in the community, I was in the background, right? I had no problem being in the background. People, my students, yoga students, or massage clients, they wanted to call me a healer, or they wanted to call me a teacher. And I stepped away from that. I didn't want to own or claim any of that. Because I wasn't in a space to do that. I wanted to remain
separate. You stay over there.
I'm like, no, I'm just over here, just regular little old Kimbi. But the fact is, no, I'm Kimbi, and that is all parts of Kimbi. So I had to embrace that. So Kimbi Tiez, that's the name, the real name my mother gave me. That is all of who I am. So I am a healer. I am a seer. I am a feeler. I am a mother. I am a, I'm a daughter. I'm a granddaughter. I'm a singer. I'm a writer. I'm a creator. I'm an artist. You know, I'm so much. And through everything that I went through and having to start over, and not give up, I found myself, and I found my power. Like I said, I found my power. And one of the biggest things I have to say, it was actually my 40th birthday, and it was as if an internal button was pushed. and I don't know, women will understand this, but it's like you hit a certain age, like in your 20s, you think your 30s, you're like, okay, I got this kind of, I think, but that 40, that button was pushed. And I realized, I said, oh, I am fabulous. I got this.
All right.
Yes. It like something just clicked. Something just clicked. Where it's like, you better live your life. Like, girl, you better get out there and do what you're supposed to do. It just clicked on that day. I remember it because I was listening to Anita Baker taking my birthday back. And, I just felt, and I had this woman come, and she made these waist beads for me. And so I had like a, a little sister ceremony for my birthday. And so she, adorned me with the waist beads and everything. But it was just on that day, something even, it got solidified that day for me. So that's my story.
The first song that I heard you do was, I think it was a song by Rochelle Farrell.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
Lord, what do I do? That song, and I was like blown away. I mean, that because that's actually one of my favorite songs.
Oh, wow.
Uh, when I heard it, and I think I described your voice when I talked to you. It's like a peach. So it's a soft. It has a roundness to it. It's a whole, and yet it's smooth. Like a peach is very smooth. It's not, it's soft, it's smooth, and and it's a beautiful sound that I heard come out of your voice. And
Remember, you have to put that as my album review when I
ah,
we
I mean,
gotta
it was very. I mean, when I
my
heard it, I was
website.
right.
So
Take it. I mean, but it was very much. It was beautiful.
I
And then
appreciate
I listened to some of your other stuff, and what I heard was, I think you were talking about forgiveness, one that you did earlier, um, and seeing your evolution. And I said, this I got to work with. I mean, part of me was saying I got to work with her because I think she's. I'm a producer, being a producer myself, and I said, "Wow, got to work with this woman because she's got the voice. She's got the
Thank you.
got that it, and it's amazing that and I think I compared you when I first heard you. I've always been a Karen Carpenter fan, and Karen Carpenter, when you listen to her, she has that roundness that, it was like a pure tone. She didn't need to ad lib, some people just don't need to ad lib. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, uh, which is amazing because you come out of church, you used to be in the church, but most of the time when I hear church people, it's like all these runs and da 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 da, and everything like that, which is fine if that, but
Yeah.
it wasn't that. It was just pure tones, and I think some of it when I think of yoga, when I think of Tai Chi, it's almost this roundness and kind of connecting with
Mhm.
it comes out in music,
Mhm.
and so um, I was fascinated with that. Tell me about your venture as a songwriter, singer, the new, well, I would say not very new, Kimbi the Goddess.
Um, where to start? I don't know.
Singer,
Like I said,
songwriter.
that was what people will hear and what they see from my videos on YouTube, my stuff on Spotify, stuff I have on Bandcamp. It's just always been just who I am, So it's just that combination. One of the things, the type of yoga, when I led classes, or the style that I say I would instruct, I named it Gumbo Yoga.
Gumbo Yoga.
Right. And so some people would think there was going to be gumbo at the end of the class, a pot of gumbo. But I say that when I would all think of gumbo is because it's a fusion of all these different types of ingredients. So I would always say when you come to my class, I give you all these little ingredients, here and there, a dash of this, a sprinkle of that, a little this, stir in here. Um, and at the end of the class, for you to be fed and for you to feel fully fed, you know,
Mm.
ergo gumbo yoga. So with the whole journey with me, as a writer and a singer, with the songs that came to me. Once again, it's just these ingredients. So when people hear the singles, that's coming out, it's from me absorbing, all these different ingredients of life and my experiences. So it's like some are personal, some are just from what I've just absorbed, just from just seeing, and living. um, and that's just what's come out. That's how I, you know, create.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow. So now you're working on a project, a music project. You have and tell us about that.
So the one where I reached out,
Yes.
right? Okay. So this next single that I'm working on to release, it's titled Finding Beauty in Chaos.
Mm.
And so I actually wrote that song. I freestyled it in the beginning a year ago. And this was actually we were probably about 3 months into everything being shut down last year, And so creatively for me, um, I it's almost like I have to say with the shutdown, and for a lot of creatives, it just kind of just had everything. And then too, being a mom, and then us thrown into virtual schooling world, that was another, stressful factor for us there. So it's just trying to, we were just like this ball of just tension and confusion and fear and unknown and all this. So creatively, right, nothing was happening for me. And in yoga terms or energy chakra terms, our seat of creativity is right below the belly center, which is the the sacral chakra. So it was just all held in there, and it's no creativity was happening because it was just in this unknown, situation. So around the summertime, beginning of summer, me and my son, we were able to escape, and I took us to Savannah for a while where I had a friend there, and he was a guitarist, and he just had this loop playing one day, and that loop playing, and it just came. And that was the first time in 3 months I was able to write, or that anything creatively came to me. And so I just sang it. And then as time went on, going into the editing process, and just it became even more. And then once I went into the studio, and then I was hearing more. And around that time too, I have to say, as far as when people hear the final project compared to the acapella, the version that I did, the acoustic version that I did in the beginning too, I watched a lot of Unsung
Mm.
during the quarantine.
Right.
And so for me, it stuck out the emotions.
Oh yeah.
And
So yeah.
yes, so a lot of the lady singing groups back then, and just those rich harmonies, and how it was like that choir fullness feel. And so once again, I was just absorbing it. I was absorbing it. So when it was time for me to go and to add final touches on that studio, and the studio sessions for that song, I called my mom. I said, Mom, I need you to come in and help me sing this part. So my mother is on that song as well. So we're doing the harmonies, and I also invited another a brother out to do that. So just to give it that rich background vocal sounds that I wanted. But it's talking about just what we as a people, kind of going back to the origins, going back to, the first step on that bidding block from people seeing those ships coming over, for the first time, up till George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, pandemic, just everything, what we've been feeling, and what I say I've been feeling, because I have felt everything, on a whole nother level. So that's what that song is about. So once I had the song completed, I knew it was talking about, well, basically the ancestors are speaking, and they want to come out. And they are working through a lot of us. So I know it had to be in a special location. So I've just been looking for a special location for a while, and nothing was really resonating with me. And I know why now, because the place with the antebellum, the slave cabins, when a mutual
Yeah.
friend
And I
reached
do
out.
want to make sure that I've shared with people on our board, and they love your music, they love your song, they love your energy, and I definitely want to see that this come about for the particular song you're talking about, as well as collaboration between you and I to work on some really nice, good music, because I love your voice, I love your spirit,
Yeah.
and I was wondering if you're not shy, since you're not, if you could do a Rochelle or something for us, or a
Put
poem,
me on tour like that.
or something in particular. But or one of your possibly one of your poems.
So you want a whole thing in there? Let's see, because I wasn't prepared for this one, but okay. So I'll give you a snippet of I love El DeBarge.
I love
Nope.
I love L too. Yeah.
So I don't know how the words go, but love me in a special way. Oh, what more can I say? Love me now. Love me in a special way. What more can I say? Love me now. Love me now. Tell me, have you ever been engaged in a forever moment when a hand with skilled artistry discovers the outline of your divinity? There are no deceptions, expecting nothing, just accepting. See, this brother, he somehow wants to know me, even though on this earthly realm, he doesn't really know me, but he feels that this connection of the masculine, feminine, though it may be a mystery, the only connection is why we did not meet any sooner. And he asks me, sister, woman, goddess, mama, where have you been when I was pretending to be in love and giving the gifts of my essence away to those who were just temporary training wheels to the ride of this chaotic life journey? See, this brother, he wants to cruise to my Cadillac state of contentment and discover each pleasure zone beyond my skin. I feel him pulling me into his auric field as our frequencies become a masterfully syncopated melody where I become him and he becomes me, and we be 5 elemental earth babies of the mother of all, flowing into each other like indigo liquid speckled flames, melting all of man's labels and notions away, budding into that super consciousness, selflessly giving. See, we are one another's realness in this unreal reality. We are the pranic energy We are the reason why poetry is even called poetry. Now, our human flesh cries because we go beyond what is known as the third power of love making. We make omnipotence, we make forgiveness, we make self-healing, we make what is our birthright, we make just being. Now, sex, that's not what I'm talking about. That is at the bottom of this totem pole when it comes to what it means to truly and absolutely to connect to someone. So tell me, have you ever made passionate, unveiled, unmitigated, quantum leap raw truth to someone and it felt like a forever moment? I can only imagine. 'Cause I'm special, not the average type who would fall for any lies. That sounds good. So love me in a special way. What more can I say? Love me now.
Wow. That is phenomenal.
Put me on the spot.
Hey, you did it, girl. I mean, that was wow. Kimbi Tiez, the goddess. I mean, you're a wonderful person, a
Thank you.
true goddess. I mean, I want to definitely thank you for allowing me to come in your space for a brief moment today. I mean, we've shared multiple conversations, but that was powerful. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I'm true. I'm just you got me.
The interviewer is speechless.
Yeah, I'm the interviewer. He ran out of questions.